The following is a Hoop Ball presentation. Welcome to the Fantasy NBA Today podcast.
Good morning and welcome to Fantasy NBA Today, brought to you by Hoop Ball. My name is Adrian Benjamins and I'm here with Neil Rochlani. Neil, how are you, brother?
Hey, it's good to be back with you this morning. Adrian and I are recording this for a second time because I had some technical difficulties. So this pod may come out a little bit later than normal. But anyway, we're going to do through this again. And between last night and now, we've had a trade in the NBA. I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but I've seen a lot of tweets on it. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, really interesting trade here. The Suns move Marquise Chris and Brandon Knight to the Houston Rockets for Ryan Anderson and rookie point guard DeAnthony Melton. Initially, I was very excited about this deal, Neil. I felt like, I own actually DeAnthony Melton and rookie point guard on the Suns, Eli Okobo, in our newly Hoop Ball Dynasty League 2. So I got really excited. I felt like this was a great opportunity for both those young guys. And then also, I thought it was really interesting for a guy like Marquise Chris, who has flashed a lot of talent, but has been very inconsistent, really let us down last season. But I feel like he can have a great opportunity in this fast-paced Houston Rockets offense. So I got really excited initially, Neil, but then I got a little bummed out because we got word from Woj that the Suns might not be done here. The Suns might be looking to add a starting caliber point guard. And then also the Suns were planning on starting Ryan Anderson, which I feel is really odd because he seems like a strange fit next to Ayton. And they got a lot of talented forwards on this team already. What do you think about this, Neil?
Yeah, I'm not sure what to make. My first impression was, I thought Brandon Knight was a sneaky last-round pick in the fantasy draft because he was projected to be their starter back in Phoenix. And when he started next to Bledsoe and even back in Milwaukee days, he was pretty decent, at least fantasy-wise. So I thought he might be a good late-round pick. Now I think he becomes irrelevant in terms of fantasy. And then, secondly, Ryan Anderson. I know Houston has been trying to get rid of him from their books from in terms of a contract perspective and his fit. Why Phoenix wants him, I'm still not sure, and why he's starting, I'm still not sure. But I think this might mean he has some fantasy relevancy if that's the case. If he's getting 26, 28, 30 minutes, the guy can shoot for threes, and he can still rebound. So I don't know what it makes for them as a team. I'm just starting to think now the fantasy impact. So those are the two that are probably going to affect my projections a bit.
I guess you can take a shot on Ryan Anderson as like a last round or late round flyer. I still don't trust him. I mean, if he couldn't really carve out significant value on the Houston Rockets, who basically a team and an offense that's made for a guy like Ryan Anderson, I'm not sure if he's going to be any better on the Phoenix Suns. And as we mentioned, man, this Phoenix Suns team is really, really deep in the forward spot. Let me see here. They just added Trevor Ariza, a guy that could start at the 4. Makes sense to start at the 4. They have Josh Jackson, who I guess is more of a 3, but can also play the 4. They drafted Mikal Bridges. They still have Dragon Bender, a young guy as well. So, I'm really interested to see here how this is all going to work. I don't really trust Ryan Anderson, but maybe as a just real late flyer, I think it could be okay. All right, Neil, we had our mock draft on Tuesday. What did you think about it real quick?
Yeah, I'm glad we did it. Thanks for setting it up. Thanks for having the idea and then getting people organized together and then getting the the tweet out there of which mock draft to do and taking all the lead on this and for recording it all. My God, I know you typed in every name as it was happening in the mock draft into a spreadsheet, which is crazy. I mean, in real time, because these players were going off the board every 5 to 10 seconds. So,
this was one of the most difficult mock drafts I've ever done. Not only because of the savvy and the talent in this mock draft. Special shout out and thanks to Chef Ali and Eric Ong, a really talented hoop ball writers, and they joined us on this mock draft. And we had some hoop ball listeners in this mock draft that, man, Neil, this is one of the toughest mocks. Guys that I normally get in certain rounds were gone. I had a backup plan if I missed out on those guys. Backup plan went to crap. So this was a tough mock draft. So, and then the other thing, as you mentioned, I was trying to log all of the picks on an Excel spreadsheet. So it made it really difficult for me to keep track of my queue, and to also, there was some fun stuff going on in the chat that I was trying to be a part of as well. And between all of that going on at the same time, it was really tough to draft. And I'm just making up excuses here, aren't I, Neil? I'm just like trying to make up excuses for my sorry team. But anyways, should we get into this? What do you think?
Yeah, let's go through. So I think today, as we discussed before coming on air, we're going to try to go through the first half of the draft, maybe the first 7 or 8 rounds, depending on how long this goes, and then do the back half next week, and then do our thoughts on the team builds as well. So we'll try to get through as much as we can here in the next however many minutes. I know you're kind of limited on time. So, excuse me. Do you want me to start us off, or do you want to?
No, you know what? Let me start us off with the first round. I'm going to list not only the picks, but the teams just for the first round. And then after that, we'll just list the picks off. What we'll do, obviously we can't go through every single player because it would be like a 5-hour show. So we're just going to list each round and talk about things that kind of stand out to us from each round. Picks we liked, maybe picks we don't like, stuff like that. So here we go. Very first pick of the draft, Richard took James Harden. Nick at pick 2 took Anthony Davis. Christian Slick Rock took Karl Anthony Towns at number 3. Neil, you took Kevin Durant at pick 4. Sean took LeBron James at pick 5. I took Giannis at pick 6. Foti took Stephen Curry at 7. Drew picked Nikola Jokic at pick 8. Chef Ali took Russell Westbrook at pick 9, and Eric Ong took Victor Oladipo at 10. Josh D with Ben Simmons at 11. UPCC took Chris Paul at 12. Now, Neil, you had the number 4 pick in this draft. Real quick, I want to ask you, what was your strategy at that spot?
Yeah, so piggybacking off your strategy that you've talked to me over the last month or so about going like with blocks and rebounds and also point guards in the beginning, I wanted to get someone who who contributes in every category. First of all, doesn't have any weaknesses, and then secondly, I wanted blocks. And Kevin Durant fits that perfectly. He's one of my favorite fantasy players. I know there's a risk with Golden State resting players down the end of the stretch, end of the season, and maybe throughout the season. So maybe his minutes come down a little bit, but I don't expect him to get, 20 games off or something. I expect it to be more like 10. And I don't know when this hypothetical season would be, but typically my head-to-head seasons would end sometime in March. So before it gets really silly in the resting. So I really like this pick. He's probably my 3rd overall player on my board. So to get him at 4, really happy.
I really love the pick. I think Kevin Durant, he's can potentially finish as the number 1 player. That would not be surprising. As you said, the blocks were a giant surprise last season. At the beginning of the season, at some point, he was leading the NBA in blocks, and it was just crazy for him to all of a sudden become such a monster in that category. So that was huge. I took Giannis at 6. I was really happy with that. Although as soon as I made the pick and Steph Curry went next, I kind of second guessed myself if I should have went Steph Curry. now being able to look at my entire team, I think I ended up with like 7 point guards, which I'm not sure why I did that. So looking back now, I'm really glad I did go Giannis here because I ended up missing out on that third center that I usually always get. And Giannis can help me more in that block and rebounding category more than Steph Curry. So I'm really happy with the pick here. The other thing that stands out for me, Neil, is Ben Simmons going at pick number 11. So he generally goes about 18 in these Yahoo mock drafts. So 11 is earlier than he usually goes. I felt like this is maybe kind of a reach to go at 11. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's he's a very exciting reality player, and I do love watching him play. But I think from a fantasy perspective, he has a couple deficiencies. His free throw percentage last year was just 56%, which was just devastating on his fantasy value. Along with his 3-pointers, he doesn't really take 3-pointers. So between those two categories, and then he turned the ball over a lot last year, and this is a 9-cat hypothetical league. So there's 3 categories where he really hurts you, and because of that, he finished 51st overall last year in 9-cat, and he certainly can go up. I mean, he's a rising star in a future potential, maybe MVP. But I think right now to take him at 11 is a reach, and even if you wanted him, I think that badly. You're picking again on the turn. You're picking at 14, and I don't think he'd go at 12 or 13. So you could probably get another first rounder, and then Simmons is your second pick if you really were that bullish on him. So I was surprised by that. On the positive side, for this round, I really like the Steph Curry pick at 7. I think he is someone who is going to prove himself this year. Was injured last year and wants to play a lot. Big competitor. I know that team again may rest, but he's not someone who wants to rest. And I think Kerr, as a competitor, as a coach as well, will give him some leash, and I think he's going to finish in the top 5. So that was sort of, I think, the best value pick of this round. And then, like you said, Ben Simmons, I was surprised by that too.
One last thing that's a little surprising as well is I usually see Damian Lillard go in this like 8, 9, 10 range. Was very interesting to see Westbrook, Oladipo, and Chris Paul all go ahead of Lillard here. I have no problem with Westbrook. I love Oladipo. Had him on a lot of teams last year. I think it's great. I don't know if I would go Chris Paul over Lillard. Little worried, just he's getting a little older at age 33. I think we're going to see him rest quite a bit. Has really shown he can't make it through a full season. Always tends to miss a week or two here and there due to whatever. So I would have probably went Lillard there. But other than that, no surprises here in the first round. Top of the first round has been Harden, Anthony Davis, Towns, pretty much in all the mock drafts. So no surprises here. Pretty good first round. Neil, do you want to take us into round 2?
Yeah, so round 2, as we go back, snake back, 13 was Kawhi Leonard, 14 Andre Drummond, 15 Joel Embiid, 16 Damian Lillard, 17 Paul George, 18 Drew Holiday, 19 Donovan Mitchell, 20 Draymond Green, 21 Kyrie Irving, 22 Jimmy Butler, 23 John Wall, and 24 Kemba Walker.
So this is a really interesting round, and I love just looking at the pairings. Eric Ong pairing Victor Oladipo with Joel Embiid, Chef Ali getting a monster backcourt with Russell Westbrook, Damian Lillard. I love your pairing, Neil, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. Do you kind of want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, Kyrie is someone who I really like as a fantasy player. I mean, last year he had some injury issues, and of course that team is very deep as well, and they could be spraying out the minutes a little bit more. But last year he finished on averages 14. I'm playing 60 games in 32 minutes. So I don't think his minutes will come down too much. So assuming he plays, more of his healthy share of games, I think he'll finish in the averages around that as well. And then Jimmy Butler was my other thought there. I was deciding between Irving and Butler, and I decided to go with the point guard strategy. So went with Irving. I easily could have gone with Butler. But and I think in hindsight, maybe I would have taken him. But I'm pretty comfortable with that pick. What do you think about Donovan Mitchell? Have you looked at him much this year? I don't know if you've talked about him yet.
So, Neil, I heard your show yesterday with Dan Bespris. I heard you guys knocking my man Donovan Mitchell, and I think this is a good time for me to defend my second round choice of Donovan Mitchell. I'm pretty much looking at him everywhere, round 2. And here's my thinking, Neil. I've talked about on previous shows, Donovan Mitchell got off to a really slow start last season. Wasn't even starting for the Jazz, I believe, the whole first month of the season. This year, I think he's going to come out of the gate hot. I think he's going to be shot out of a cannon. And I think we're going to see improvement in his game. Let's not forget, last year was his rookie year. He was seeing the league for the very first time. The speed of the game is going to be easier for him. It says, I'm hoping we see improved percentages. I'm hoping he becomes more efficient. I'm hoping maybe the assist numbers come up as well. So I think that he's going to finish way ahead of where he finished last year. Secondly, Neil, the fun factor. Last year I had Victor Oladipo, and it was such a joy to see him destroy teams every night, to see the highlights on SportsCenter. It made my season so much more fun. A season or two before that, I had Russell Westbrook during that MVP year where he was putting up those gaudy triple doubles. And Neil, when you have a guy like that who's just going off every night, who's on the highlights each night, it makes your season so fun. And I think Donovan Mitchell's going to be that guy this year. And last thought on my man Donovan Mitchell, Neil, I'm going to quote the beautiful and talented Selena Gomez when I say, the heart wants what it wants, Neil. My heart wants Donovan Mitchell in round 2. What do you think, Neil?
You know what your heart wants, and that's a beautiful thing. So I'm glad you got your guy. I love to watch him play, and I'm excited for this season, partly because it's great to see new stars just come into the league and just start to showcase their skills. So he's going to be a fun player to watch. There's a but coming here, though. So in terms of fantasy value, the two things that I think he's going to have trouble being able to live up to that ranking, the two categories are turnovers and field goal percentage. I think those could improve. 43.7% field goal percentage. He's obviously going to take a lot of shots. And then the turnovers were at 2.7. And if he does more ball handling and he's still learning, I don't think Quinn Snyder's going to have him on a tightrope. He's going to allow him to just go out there and play. So I'm worried about those turnovers. I'm worried about the field goal percent. I think he's going to obviously shoot up a bit. I just don't know if he'll get to second round value. But for your sake, I hope he does. And I know you'll have a lot of fun watching him, which is a big part of fantasy, right? Just having fun and picking players you love. So I'm rooting for you, Adrian. I'm rooting for you. Despite what I say behind your back and other podcasts, I'm rooting for you.
Last thoughts on round 2. No real surprises. All these guys, Kemba Walker, Wall, Butler, all going in this round 2, usually Paul George, Damian Lillard. So no big surprises. Team UPCC, who had the last pick in round 1, going Chris Paul and going Kawhi Leonard. Little risky there health-wise, right? So although we're hearing a lot of great stuff about Kawhi Leonard, I still need to see it. So little risky build here going that way. But other than that, no surprises in round 2. Neil, any last thoughts on round 2?
Yeah, just two quick notes. The Kawhi Leonard pick at 13, I actually like that. I think if he is healthy, obviously we're doing this very early before the season starts, but if he's healthy, 13 is a good value. And then, like you mentioned earlier, Damian Lillard at 16 is a great value. He finished 8th last year in averages, and he's someone who typically has played many games every season, like 70-plus games. So total-wise, he's even better than that. Assuming he doesn't break down this year, that's a great value as well. And that was – who took that? I want to just give credit. Chef Ali took the Damian Lillard at 16. Okay, you want to run us through the third round?
Third round, here we go. Pick 25, Miles Turner. Pick 26, Kevin Love. 27, Kyle Lowry. 28, Rudy Gobert. That was your pick, Neil. 29, DeMar DeRozan. Pick 30, I took Clint Capella. 31, Bradley Beal. 32, CJ McCollum. 33, Chris Middleton. 34, Robert Covington. 35, Hassan Whiteside. And 36, Klay Thompson. What are your thoughts so far on this round?
Yeah, a couple of things come out for me. For Miles Turner going at 25, certainly that could be his potential. I was surprised he went that early. Secondly, my pick, Gobert, I'll just get into. I'm trying to get high-quality centers early on. I had two players ahead of him who shoot really good free throws at a high rate, so I think he'll be covered in terms of that. I won't get dinged too much in free throw percentage, despite his poor percentage numbers. Third was McCollum and Covington and Whiteside. Those are all I thought a bit curious for round 3. I don't think they've ever produced third-round value. So I know Whiteside may have in the past, but this year he's looking – there's been, obviously some conflict between him and management and coaching, and who knows if he'll be in Miami. And maybe if he goes somewhere else, he's in a better situation. But I don't know if McCollum, Covington, and Whiteside will return third-round value. What are your thoughts on this round?
Oh, man, I got so much thoughts on this round. I feel like I can do an entire podcast just on this round. First off, Richard, who drafted first overall, took my guy, Miles Turner, at pick 25, where Miles Turner, Neil, his average draft pick in Yahoo mocks is pick 52. So I thought I was going to get Miles Turner maybe in round 4 or 5. Was gone the first pick of round 3. That threw me off. Dang you, Richard. And then, I had the same strategy as you. You went blocks right here. I really love how you locked up blocks with Kevin Durant first and then Rudy Gobert as your pick 3. As we'll find out later, one of the things we learned, I know I'm kind of getting ahead here, but one of the things we learned after this whole thing ended was centers really are the scarcest position this year in fantasy. So I'm really... I like you taking Gobert. I did the same thing by taking Clint Capella. I had the same thoughts as you. And then I agree with you. Eric Ong taking Robert Covington here. I felt like there were just guys I would much rather have. Off the top of my head, I would much rather have Josh Richardson, Tobias Harris. I'd rather have Gary Harris. It's just, Robert Covington sometimes goes through flashes of inconsistency. And also, too, this Sixers team, the evolution of Embiid and Ben Simmons, they're adding rejuvenated and hopefully revamped Markelle Fultz to this team. I feel like Robert Covington's like the 4th option on this team, where he could have got a guy like Tobias Harris, who's like the number 1 alpha on his team. I don't know if Eric was maybe just kind of going after defensive stats, because Covington is really nice with steals, but I thought that was a little bit of a reach at pick 34. And then I agree with you on Hassan Whiteside. I understand the urgency to grab a center because, he was probably thinking, Josh D was probably thinking the same thing that you and I were thinking, Neil. Let me get a center here that can get me blocks. But a lot of questions on Whiteside with his rough year last season. But, there's a lot of buzz in the offseason that Whiteside was just not healthy last year, and now he finally is. I'm not really sure if I'm buying that. So, I would have much rather taken a safer guy right there. But I guess I can understand what Josh D was thinking. Neil, any last thoughts on this round?
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe it was a health issue, although that could also just be a smokescreen for the trying to cover up his performance last year. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, he has potential to put up great fantasy numbers if he's, in stretches. So maybe it'll work out. But let's go on to the 4th round. 37th, snaking back around, Devin Booker. 38th, Eric Bledsoe. 39 was Josh Richardson. 40, Tobias Harris. 41, Otto Porter Jr. 42, Marc Gasol. 43, John Collins. 44, Lou Williams. 45, Mike Conley. 46, LaMarcus Aldridge. 47, DeAndre Jordan. And 48, Gary Harris. You want to start us off in this round?
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to start with my pick, John Collins, and I really jumped the gun on John Collins here. Usually doesn't go until about pick 61 in these Yahoo mocks, and I'm really scared of Richard on the turn right here. Sniping already my guy Miles Turner, and as we'll find out for the rest of this draft, sniped quite a few of my picks. So I love John Collins. I think. Definitely, I'm hoping to get him a little later than this, maybe in the following round. But I do think he can finish like in that 50 range. I got him here at 43, so I definitely jumped the gun. The main pick here that kind of stands out to me is questionable. Sean taking Lou Williams at 44. I love what Lou Williams did last season, but Neil, this year, I just don't trust the situation that is going on with the Clippers in their backcourt. They are mega loaded. Patrick Beverley, Teodosic, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Avery Bradley. They drafted Jerome Robinson, who should play at the 2. I mean, Neil, it is mega crowded right there. And so I think this was a little early for Lou Williams, where you could have gotten a guy right here at pick 44 who's got like no question marks at all. What are your thoughts on this round, Neil?
Yeah, Lou Williams has been a great fantasy player the last few years and like 6th man of the year perennially every year. Last year he finished 44th overall in 9-cat, and I think that might be a ceiling again. So I don't think it's a bad pick necessarily. I just don't know if there's any value to get from here. Your Collins pick, I like him as a player. He's got a lot of place to grow though to get to that 43 value. So I don't think I would take him that early as well. I wanted Collins, but he's more like a 6th to 7th round pick for me, which I don't think he'll fall that far, right? I think he's probably going is he going like you said 50s or 60s typically in mock drafts?
Yeah, his average draft spot is a 61, so that's what, like almost
and if
61 is like 2 rounds later, right? That's the very start of round 6. So that's his average draft position. I really jumped the gun here, but Richard on the turn was freaking me out. So had to get my guy, just got him. And then real quick, I love your pick of Mike Conley, Neil. I think that could be at 45, really good value. I like how you're sticking to your build of centers and point guards. And, Mike Conley, as long as he's healthy, we know he can be an elite type point guard. So to get him at pick 45, I thought that was pretty good. Do you want to touch on that pick a little bit?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in guys that come off a bad year and obviously had a terrible year with the injury and that have proven to be good players. And like you've said before, guys who are focal points of their offense. I mean, between him and Marc Gasol, that's the 2-man group. I know they got new guys coming in, and they brought in Kyle Anderson, but I really think Conley is still the driver of this team, and he is going to get a lot of fantasy stats. So assuming he's healthy and he plays his share of games, I think 45 is a good value for him. I do want to touch on a couple other players that I liked here. Bledsoe at 38, I thought was a good pick for value. Last year finished in the 20s, and I don't see why he can't do something similar again this year. And then I think those are the best value picks. I think was Eric Bledsoe in this past round by Josh D. And then any other thoughts on this round? Oh, Otto Porter Jr. I mean, I know he's kind of not a flashy name, but he does finish like almost every year in the 20s in 9-cat, remarkably. So to get him at 41 seems like a good value pick as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. Otto Porter, a guy I'm kind of fading this year due to the Dwight Howard effect. But at pick 41, it feels a little safe right there, right? Like this guy has upside to finish in the 20 range, right? So to get him at 41 still feels like even if you add in the Dwight Howard hit, you're still kind of feeling like this isn't going to be a problem for him to finish around this range. And then my last thought on this round, Gary Harris, Josh Richardson, Tobias Harris, these guys are now staples of the 4th round, which is a big change compared to last season. These guys went, much later last year, but seems to be the usual trend to see these guys in round 4. All right, Neil, let's move on to round 5. I'll start us off here. pick 49. Richard again sniping my guy, Jarrett Allen, at pick 49. Neil, Jarrett Allen doesn't usually get drafted till pick 86 in Yahoo mocks. Anyways, let me move on here. Pick 50, Blake Griffin. Pick 51, Al Horford. You took Gordon Hayward at 52. Dwight Howard, 53. Pick 54, I took Aaron Gordon. 55, Jamal Murray. 56, Turian Prince. 57, Chef Ali took DeAndre Ayton. 58, Jason Tatum. 59, Nikola Vucevic. And the last pick of this round, Jonas Valanciunas. Neil, what do you think about this round?
I'm sorry you keep getting sniped. I know how much you love Jarrett Allen, and this is going to be really curious to see. He is someone who did not finish in the top 100 last year, but obviously started to get more starters minutes towards the end of the year and started to look like he could be one of those fantasy centers that are coveted in sort of the late, early rounds. And it looks like Richard is on that boat because he got him in round 5. I don't think I would take him for a few more rounds, looking more like around 8 or 9 for me, but I don't think he's going to last. He's probably going to get a lot of buzz this year. What round do you normally try to get him in?
So usually in these Yahoo mocks, I get him in round 6. And, I have no problem taking him at 49 where Richard took him. And, Richard's also drafting on the end right here. So he's not going to see another pick for a while. And I'll be honest with you, I was going to take Jarrett Allen in round 6. So he wasn't getting back to Richard. I can't blame him here. Real quick thoughts on Jarrett Allen, Neil. Word is that he's been in the gym more than any other the Nets players. Him and D'Angelo Russell, I think also Karis LeVert are working out really hard. Neil, report just came out this morning that Jarrett Allen's shooting up to 100 threes in practice, really trying to add that to his game. That could be very interesting. You talked about how he fits this mold. I love he doesn't hurt you from the free throw line. I think he can be an elite center. So I really like this pick. I was devastated that I wasn't able to draft him. And Richard, man, sniping me again. Let's see what else stands out from this draft. Chef Ali taking DeAndre Ayton. Another kind of early pick usually goes at about pick 81. Chef Ali taking him at 57. Now, Neil, I got my backup plan when I miss out on Miles Turner, John Collins, and Jarrett Allen. My backup plan is usually to look at DeAndre Ayton a little later, like in the 70 to 80 range. I really like this pick from Chef Ali. I think DeAndre Ayton's going to be a really solid center. I think he's going to be a little bit better on defense than people are giving him credit for. It is a little early at pick 57, but as we see in the rest of this draft, centers are so difficult to get. So I really like Chef Ali getting him there. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, Ayton is one of those players that we really don't know. He could be, I don't know what his ceiling is. Maybe it's above 57. Certainly his floor is below it. So it'll be interesting to see where he ends up. I'm not a big risk taker when it comes to taking unproven players, no matter how big the buzz is. So I would stay away from most rookies until probably later in the draft. So this is not a strategy I would employ. The other player, there's two other players that in this round that I thought went a little bit early. Dwight Howard at 53. I know he put up some good points and rebounds last year, but he still finished 150th overall in averages. So I don't think I would take him this early. Secondly, Jason Tatum had an obviously awesome season last year and a great playoff run. But with Hayward coming back, I'm worried about his minutes, his role on this team. He certainly was going to be a very good NBA player going forward. But fantasy-wise, I think his stats are going to come down a little bit, and I would avoid him until later in the rounds. The one good value pick I like in this draft or this round is Nicholas Vucevic by Josh D at 59, someone who can return in the 30s. And not sure what's going to happen in that front court. It's starting to get crowded there, but if he's getting his 28-plus minutes, he's certainly going to finish above 59.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that you mentioned those guys that kind of have question marks. Jason Tatum, a guy that I loved last year, helped me on a bunch of teams, but I'm really shying away from him this year because, Neil, there's a lot of buzz that he may not even start and that he's okay with coming off of the bench. And, you know, the Celtics are so loaded. We just don't know what kind of usage, what kind of minutes that Jason Tatum's going to get. I mean, you like to think that he's going to be safe because he's so talented, but we just don't know. The Celtics' number one priority is to win. It's not for Tatum to get numbers. So, you know, I'm really shying away from him. You know, a lot of questions in this round. You mentioned Dwight Howard, and although Dwight Howard, reality-wise, actually had a pretty good season last year, I don't know, man. I don't really trust him for fantasy. How's he going to fit with the Wizards, who, you know, already have an established core in Beal and Porter and John Wall? So just some questions there, right? And then also too, Jonas Valanciunas, you know, a guy who's been real up and down, new coach in Toronto, you know, what's his usage going to be like there? So a lot of question marks in this round, Neil.
Yeah, I agree. This is where it starts to get interesting. This is where I really start to see, I just start to take guys that have proven themselves and sort of like fallen off the board as people start to take their favorite players or players that I don't think are going to have great value. So that's why I went with Hayward. To me, at 52, I think that's a good value for him. We'll see. Who knows? Maybe he'll get injured in game one and won't play again, but hopefully not the case for him or this mock fantasy team. Are you ready to go to round 6?
Let's go to round 6. Is it my turn or your turn?
No, I'm back. I do the reverse order.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 61, Paul Millsap. 62, Lauri Markkanen. 63, Jeff Teague. 64, Nikola Mirotic. 65, Joe Ingles. 66, Enes Kanter. 67, D'Angelo Russell. 68, Steven Adams. 69, Ricky Rubio. 70, Brook Lopez. 71, Yusuf Nurkic. And 72, Will Barton. What are your thoughts from this round?
The first thing that stands out to me, Neil, is I feel like Paul Millsap could be a really strong value this year. Pick 61, Neil, a couple seasons ago, this is a guy we were drafting like at the end of the second, early third round. You know, he is getting a little older. We did see him miss some time last season due to injury, but I feel like he's kind of got this safe floor of like somewhere between the 40 and 50 range, and his upside is like second round type range. So to get him at 61, I feel like it feels like a really good pick right there. Love Lauri Markkanen this year at pick 62. I think that's really great. I think he could be a top 50 player easy. Neil, I panicked and took D'Angelo Russell right here. You know, I think I was a little lost when my turn came up. My queue was empty. I think I was talking to someone in the chat. D'Angelo Russell's a guy I've seen go a little earlier than 61 in my mocks. Was real up and down last year, but I think this is like a do or die season for D'Angelo. Hearing really great things from the Nets camp in the offseason, even some of his players on his team are saying he looks really good, and I think this is going to be his year. So I was pretty happy to get D'Angelo Russell. Neil, tell me about Ricky Rubio right here. Were you pretty happy to get him at pick 69?
Yeah, so for me, as we're going into these mid rounds, I am still looking for guys that don't have a high variance, meaning that I kind of know where they're going to finish if they play their games. You know, they've been so established. They're either going to be like in the 40s to 60s range, and that's kind of where Rubio has been the last couple of years. I know things are changing in Utah with Mitchell sort of taking the alpha role, and Rubio's assists are coming down, but he's still playing a crucial role in that team, and he still puts up some pretty good fantasy numbers. So at 69, I think he's a good value, and I know what I'm getting, as opposed to maybe like your guy, let's just say D'Angelo Russell. He could easily outperform Ricky Rubio this year, but he also could be a lot lower. So there's just too much variance for me in a pick like that, and I tend to play it safe. So that's why I took him. And then looking through the other picks, like Ingles at 65 seems very. I mean, I like to get him later, but I'm sure he'll surpass that. And Mirotic at 64, another one probably earlier than I want to take him, but there's a very good chance he'll surpass 64 again. Teague I thought was good at 63. Millsap, I think, like you said, I think is probably the best value this round. 61. he's an integral part of that offense that puts up so many numbers. And I know I think he's 33 this year, so maybe his athleticism will take a slight hit, but he's still such a great player. So I think at 61, he's a very good value.
That the last round we talked about, there were some question marks and risks. This round feels a lot safer. Like if you had to put a title on this round, it feels like the safe round. As we mentioned, Millsap, Marketing, Jeff Teague, Joe Ingles, Steven Adams, you taking Rubio, Will Barton. These all these picks all feel like very safe to return value in the 6th round, if not better. So some really great picks here. Neil, let's move on to round 7. Let's finish the show up with this last round. And then on next week's show, we'll get into rounds 8 through 13. Richard started off round 7 with Lonzo Ball at pick 73. 74 was Nick Batum. 75 was Goran Dragic. You took Dario Saric at 76. Spencer Dinwiddie at 77. 78, I took Kyle Anderson. 79, Serge Ibaka. Pick 80 was Zach LaVine. Pick 81, Wendell Carter Jr. Pick 82, Jaren Jackson Jr. Pick 83, Tim Hardaway Jr. A run of juniors right there. Pick 84, Julius Randle. Neil, what are your thoughts on this?
Again, my heart goes out to you with Jaren Jackson Jr. going to another team. At 82, I guess there are players here that I think could return these values, but what I think the biggest takeaway from this round, and I'll get to my pick, which I was actually looking back on and even in the moment was not happy with, but like Spencer Dinwiddie at 7-7, if he gets the starting point guard position, he certainly can return this value, but there's no reason to take him this early. He is not going to be drafted, I think, in many drafts. So you can get him as well much later in the draft. So there's no reason to take him here. And I'm probably going to think the same thing as Wendell Carter and Jaren Jackson. Are they really going this early at 81, 82?
No, they are not going this early. And, Wendell Carter Jr. picked by our buddy Chef Ali. Jaren Jackson Jr. picked by our buddy Eric Ong. This was all about the scarcity of centers trying to get blocks. And, Neil, Wendell Carter Jr., his average draft spot in Yahoo is 113. Jaren Jackson Jr. is also around there. So at pick 81 and 82, this is much earlier than they normally go. Neil, my backup plan was to get one of these guys in the rounds later. So I was really thinking I was going to be able to land one of those guys. And so, earlier in the show, I talked about how my blueprint kind of didn't work out. My backup plan, which were those guys, didn't pan out. I even had a third backup plan, which I'll tell you about in the next show. That didn't pan out as well. So this mock draft really did not go my way. And, but anyways, I really do like the picks of Wendell Carter Jr. and Jaren Jackson Jr. The scarcity on the blocks, both these guys can be really good in the blocks category. And so I have no problem with them going right there just because real slim pickings on that position in category. I agree with you, Neil, 100%. Spencer Dinwiddie at 77, this guy might not even start, right? And I mean, Neil, so many other point guards I would have rather went. Dennis Smith Jr. is still on the board. Markelle Fultz is still on the board. I'd rather have late point guards into De'Aaron Fox and Colin Sexton, and even a guy like Luka Doncic could put up some better point guard stat numbers than Spencer Dinwiddie. Yes, I love Spencer Dinwiddie's game. I love what he did last season, but we don't know if that opportunity is going to be there this year. So very risky at 77. Neil, any other thoughts on round 7?
Yeah, because this is where I messed up big time. Dario Saric, 76. I was looking for like a power forward who could knock down some threes and also maybe get some defensive stats. And for whatever reason, in my mind, I thought Saric fit that mold, which he doesn't. So this was a good exercise in making mistakes for me and trying to make a correction next time. So I don't think he's going to be terrible, but I don't think he's going to return this value at 76. So I rushed it here and regret this decision. So other than that, though, in this round, Lonzo Ball at 73, I think is a decent pick. I mean, he could he could far exceed that. I mean, if this guy gets his percentages up, which I know is a huge if, he is certainly like a top 30 player. So that's not bad. And then the other ones, though, I didn't see a lot of great value in this round. But then again, a lot of these guys could easily surpass their rankings, like Levine at 80. I'm not sure where he's going to end up, but that's not a bad pick. Hardaway Jr. at 83 and Randall at 84. I just don't know where those guys are going to finish up. They've got potential to be good. They're very solid role players on their teams. Levine may even be their alpha in his team. So we'll see. We'll see where their stats end up at the end of the year.
Yeah, really interesting round. A mix of some safe guys and a mix of question mark guys here, but really interesting. And I'm really excited. Next week we'll get into the final rounds. We'll also kind of just get into looking at like team builds in general. I want to talk about who you think like was the overall best value, worst value, who your favorite team is. So next week we'll get deeper into this. But Neil, let's put a bow on the show. Any big plans for this weekend?
I don't have a lot of plans for this weekend. A little bit of work, but other than that, I will be reviewing this mock draft. Yeah, I want to put these teams into like a forecast and see where the teams as a whole fill out too, not just round by round value. So that'll be interesting to see. Maybe I'm missing something from some of these teams. And then that's it. How about you? What are you up to this weekend?
No big plans this weekend. Just going to relax. Oh, I do have a big fantasy football draft with a lot of guys that I went to school with and that I've been friends with forever on Sunday. Fun time, man. We all get together at my buddy's house. We barbecue. He bought a 19-pound brisket that he's going to smoke. And it's such a fun time, man. I am literally crunching for this fantasy football draft. I don't know anything about football. Neil, basketball, I never, ever turn off. Football, I'm a very casual football fan. And so trying to get as much information I can in a short time for football. So should be really interesting, but also a lot of fun. Lastly, you guys, just want to say, go get the Hoop Ball draft guide that just came out. $13.99. The price of that's going to go up as we get closer to the season. A lot of great stuff in there. Rankings, projections, columns. There's going to be more added to it as the off season goes on. So go get that draft guide, you guys. Thanks a lot for listening. Thanks a lot. Neil, we're going to do more of these mock drafts. I think we should do a few more as the off season goes on. Definitely want to do one like right before that draft week, because it's going to be a lot more accurate. Like, we're going to see so many changes in these rankings and where these guys are going that I think it would be really beneficial to do one closer to the actual draft week. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea to do at least one more, maybe a month from now, if we have time, maybe two more, but at least one more as we head towards the end of September, beginning of October, right around time drafts happen. And, at this barbecue, is Frank going to be there? Is he one of the guys?
No. Unfortunately, Frank's not going to be there. He's not a big football fan, but we do the same exact thing for basketball. This is like a lot of these guys, my home league, and Frank's in there. So, but yeah, I was trying to get Frank to join us in this mock draft. So if we do another one, I'm sure he'll be a part of it. Anyways, you guys, thanks so much. Hit Neil on Twitter @BallWithNeil. Hit me up at Adrian Benjamins. Follow us. We'll let you guys know when the next mock draft is going to drop. And thank you guys so much. Have a great long Labor Day weekend, and we'll see you later.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.